Congratulations! If you've made this far into the series, you've successfully completed the first section of Dart programming language. So now you have a basic idea on what dotpad is, what variables and types are, some basic if-else statements, and using functions and lambda functions. Welcome to section 2. You've mastered the core mechanics of Dart, now it's time to actually build systems. Up until now, we've used one variable to store one thing, but real-world apps handle collections. Shopping carts, news feeds, lists, or friend lists. You don't want 100 variables for 100 items. You want a list. Think of list like a train. The variable name is the engine, and the data is stored in the couple of cars behind it. In Dart, we create this train using square brackets. But there's a catch. Computers are weird. They don't start counting at 1. They start counting at 0. So the first car is your train index that is at 0. If you have 3 items, your last item's index is 2. Remember this or your app will crash when you try to find item 3 that does not exist. So your first item is always index 0, your second item is index 1, and so forth. So even if you have 3 items, you never have the third index because your third index is always 2. Now, if you have 1,000 items in your list, you aren't going to print them manually. You use a loop. A loop is like a repeat button. It tells the computer, go to the first car, do something, and automatically jump to the next one. It keeps going until it hits the end of the track. It turns hours of manual work into milliseconds of automation. Now, let's follow the pattern. We're going to build a grocery list and let the computer do the talking. Let's delete our code from the previous episode and start. So this time we will be starting inside the main function. Inside the main function, I want to create a list. So there's 2 things that you need to remember while creating a list. Firstly, obviously you need to state the data type that is list. Then you need to give a name. So groceries would be a name of the list. Inside the list, you have curly braces and items separated by commas. So I can have milk, I could have bread, and I could have some eggs. Now there's one more thing though. Although this is technically possible to create a list, and this would still technically work, as you can see if I print groceries, this would still work. But a good practice is to always differentiate what type of items the list holds. So similarly what we did in variables, so a variable called age would need to have a type stated in front of it to tell me what type of variable that is. You can do something similar for lists. So for lists, you put angle brackets and you put the data type in. So basically what this specifies is that this list containing grocery items only contains strings. So if I try to add an integer to this list, this will be an error because an element type int cannot be assigned to the list type string. If I remove this string, obviously it will allow me to put that variable in, but usually you won't have mixed variables or mixed data types inside a single string. And it is always a good practice to define your list data types. In this case, we have a string. Now, you can print an individual index of the string, like I said before, simply using groceries, big brackets, and giving the index. So again, remember, if I want to print bread, bread's index is 1 because our list indexing starts at 0. Milk is 0, bread is 1, and eggs is 2. If I want bread, I will pass in 1. If I run this program, I will get just bread. But what if I want to print all the items? I would need to groceries 0 and groceries 2. Now this clearly works when you want individual items, but what if this list was thousands of items long? It doesn't make sense to create thousands of print statements just to print out one list. So for this purpose, we use loops. To create a loop, there's different kinds inside Dart. For this purpose, we generally use what's called a for loop. You start for loop with your for keyword. Inside the for keywords, you want a variable. So you want a variable called item. This variable's name could be anything. Let's say item. In is a membership operator, so we're checking for every item inside groceries. And what do we want to do with that item? We simply want to print that item as is. So if we print this, we still get milk, bread, and eggs. So what is this piece of code actually doing? It literally reads like English. For every item inside groceries, print this message. We didn't have to tell it where to start, where to stop. Dart simply just sees the list, sees the loop, and handles the rest. We wrote 3 lines of code that could handle 4 items or 4 million items exactly in the same exact way. That is the power of lists and loops. You've given your code the muscle to handle big data. Your homework is go to Dartpad, make a list of 5 numbers, and use different kinds of loops that you can find in the Dart documentation to print each number multiplied by 2. In the next video, we're building the blueprint. We're going to learn about classes and objects so we can create our own custom data types. I'll see you in episode 6.